Today, we are reading Kleos' novel, X Grade Meta. 6 chapters long for now, hence why we will probably finish it today, depending on how long the chapters are. TLDR, Shadow Slave videos will stay privated, but we have new novels to read from now on. And we're starting off with X Grade Meta by Kleos, our dear viewer friend, chat friend. I got reincarnated as a Ford F-150 in the middle of a war against slugs. I wish, dude. What? Send me the author now. Contact information. Give. Sounds hella nice. Okay, let's read the summary. Callum Vey was a 30-year-old doctoral candidate before his reincarnation to a world much like his own, except for the fact that superpowers exist. Spending most of his life desperately waiting till the day he obtained his own powers, when he finally did, he realized he might have gotten more than he bargained for. The main idea behind the story is to explore unique powers and how a world copes with their introduction. Hope you enjoy. Also, please review and critique. We will review and critique. Sounds interesting so far. I can see already that there are some long words that I will struggle with to say out loud. Chapter 1. Do-over. Callum had to admit it. This reincarnation thing was a total scam. Good start. No flaming swords. No system notifications blinking in his periphery. No dragon-riding elves offering him a destiny. Seriously, where was his golden finger? All he received was a bad case of the Mandela effect, as this world was almost identical to his last. Barring one notable exception, superpowers existed. Unluckily for Callum, there was only like a 30% chance you would develop them. Wow, what a reincarnation. You may or may not, 30% chance, get a superpower, otherwise it's the same. Even worse, they only began developing during puberty, and he had started this whole reincarnation business from infancy. The doubt and anticipation had been slowly driving him insane. It didn't help that no one could predict what ability they'd awaken. Genetics played a role, sure, but there were too many outliers to call it a science. Some people seemed to get powers that fit their personalities or deepest desires, while others got ones that seemed entirely random. The one upside to this whole situation: his brain hadn't reset to factory settings. Also, it's like a super smart baby, right? I don't know how old he is, though. I think it said that he was 30 in the summary. That's a scary baby, right? So here he was, breezing through high school trigonometry, while his classmates struggled to spell Pythagoras. Pythagoras? I can't even say it, and I probably wouldn't be able to spell it. Holy moly, big word for me. Sure, Callum hadn't been a super genius in his first life, but cramming 30 plus years of memories of a doctoral candidate into a kid's skull with enough neuroplasticity to learn just about everything, it was like giving a rampaging chimpanzee meth. Oh damn, we're already talking about meth. Pi as in Python. Pythagoras? In Swedish we say Pythagoras. So that I can say. But English is harder. Okay, we don't have any slugs, but we have chimpanzees on meth. Cool. And now, at the ripe old age of 14, he was just minutes away from graduating high school, with Ivy League schools drooling over him like he'd cured taxes. Yet all he could think about was what kind of powers he would develop. How are chimpanzees on meth and this situation related? You're telling me you've never seen a chimpanzee in bed? Callum slouched in his oversized gown, fiddling with the tassel on his cap, while the auditorium buzzed with parents, students, and the kind of people who got forced to attend a high school graduation. Me! The dean had begged him to give a speech, but Callum had declined. What would he say? Thanks for the diploma. Now where's my laser vision? Please do. His foster aunt, Margot, elbowed him as the procession began. Smile, kiddo. You're making headlines. She wasn't wrong. A news van idled outside, hungry for a soundbite from the non-soup 14-year-old genius. Callum forced a grin, but his mind was elsewhere. The ceremony blurred into a montage of handshakes and hollow applause. But as Callum accepted his diploma, a prickle shot up his spine, a sensation like static dancing under his skin. He froze, heart hammering. Was this it? For a breathless moment, his vision flickered, the world dissolving into a mosaic of kaleidoscopic colors. Then Margot hugged him, and the sensation vanished just as quickly as it appeared. Now he didn't get his powers. Margot fucking cucked him his powers. While the crowd erupted in cheers, Callum was stuck in contemplation. Stuck? Why did I say stuck? He was stuck in contemplation. Had he imagined it? Or was the universe finally, mercifully, throwing him a bone? Snapping himself back to reality, Callum scanned the auditorium. Really looked, for the first time, maybe ever. Something was off. Not wrong exactly, just different. So it's something with his vision, maybe, I would assume? Everything was connected and alive in a way that he could not properly articulate in English. The velvet curtain beside the stage thrummed in time with the flickering exit sign above it. The principal's coffee cup vibrated sympathetically with his wristwatch. Whenever he concentrated on a particular object for more than a few seconds, the strength of the connection grew until a visible thread seemed to connect the two objects. The threads weren't entirely visual. There was also a kind of eldritch understanding that they whispered to him, as if the world had slipped into a language he had always known but never learned to speak. He reached instinctively toward the nearest thread, a taut, invisible line, but the moment his fingers grazed it, his head split. White-hot needles stabbed his temples. He staggered, catching himself on a chair as the sensation faded, leaving behind the metallic tang of blood in his mouth. Had he bitten his tongue? Around him, the crowd milled obliviously. No one noticed the boy genius clutching his skull like a grenade had gone off behind his eyes. The after party was worse. Balloons clung to the gym ceiling like radioactive jellyfish. A DJ played a remix of a song Callum vaguely remembered hearing in his first life. Margot had parked him at a table with a slice of cake he didn't want and a paper crown that read, graduated, but with an 8. Oh no. Oh no. Has this ever happened to someone? If it has, I'm so sorry. He prodded the frosting, watching it shimmer under the disco lights. The cake's vanilla scent sharpened into something chemical, and suddenly he could taste the connection between sugar and the plastic fork in his hand. A sharp, oily, chemical, wrong-flavored kinship, like licking a deep-fried battery. I remember when I was young, though. My dad made me lick batteries. Not lick batteries, but like put your tongue to a battery and he would it will go bzz. And I was like, oh my god. And I've done it a few times. So I kind of get it, No way, bro, got hallucinations, a special ability. Oh no. No. You okay, kiddo? Margot slid into the seat beside him. reeking of dollar store perfume and secondhand smoke. Peachy, he lied. Her cigarette pack in her purse called to him. Not the nicotine. The filters? Filters plus Margot equals something? His fingers twitched. What is this ability? Come on, let's get some air. She tugged his arm, and the thread between them snapped taut. A charge. A charge. Drained from somewhere behind his sternum. Margot's grip turned scalding, her skin flickering translucent. For a heartbeat, he saw her skeleton, her veins, her damaged lungs. Oh my god. Then it vanished, and she was just Margot again. Smoker's laugh, crow's feet, and all. What's crow's feet? The chimpanzee on meth was him all along. The chimpanzee on meth was the friend we made along the way. You're burning up. She pressed a hand to his forehead. Am I? His body felt normal, but the room was alive. The punch bowl whispered recipes to the paper cups. The basketball hoop overheard plotted trajectories with the deflated volleyball in the corner. And the exits. Oh god, the exits itched, pulsing with a low, electromagnetic whine that made his molars ache. He bolted for the bathroom. Locked in a stall, Callum pressed his palms to the graffiti-scarred metal floor. The hinges sang to the pipes in the walls. The flickering fluorescent lights overhead crooned a duet with the sink's dripping faucet. Everywhere, living connections. Everywhere, combinations. He gagged, doubling over as a fresh wave of awareness hit. So he can, hear everything. Spaced out for a minute, and I'm already lost. What is even happening? Chimpanzee with meth, radioactive jellyfish. None of it. The reason why he's so special is because he's a chimpanzee who's graduating. Oh, and he also got spiked with meth somehow. Yes. My god. We're already... this novel. But I assume he can see through people, and he can hear inanimate objects talking. And everything is connected with threads. The toilet paper roll unspooled in his mind, its fibers bonding with the chlorine stench of the cleaning supplies. For one delirious second, he could feel how to connect them, how to make the paper repel water instead of absorb it. A stupid, useless trick. But his body thrummed with the certainty of it, like a muscle he'd forgotten he had. Another charge drained. He counted them instinctively, though he didn't know how or why. By the time Margot pounded on the door, the world had settled back into its usual boring parameters. Mostly. You're sure you're not sick? Margot asked later, buckling him into her rust-eaten Corolla. Positive. He stared at his hands. They looked normal, felt normal. But between his fingers, faint threads shimmered like piano wire. He clenched his fists, but the connections pulled stubbornly, humming with possibility. He's become a duck. You know, he has flippers between his fingers. I like descriptive words and connections with senses, but it's also really disorienting. I think it makes sense because of how the MC is disoriented right now, but keeping the readers disoriented or confused is maybe not best, methinks, with my uneducated mind. I know there it's a lot of hard pronunciated words for me, so I'm sorry if I'm probably not helping. But I will do my best. Maybe I just have to get into it and it will be fine. As the car pulled away, Callum watched the school shrink in the rearview mirror. For the first time since his reincarnation, he started second-guessing this whole superpower thing. Home was a cramped duplex that smelled of microwaved tuna and regret. Regret! Oh, that's disgusting. Microwave tuna and regret. Damn. Margot tossed her keys into a bowl shaped like a grinning skull. Cool. A thrift store find she dubbed Mr. Optimism. Wow. And flopped onto the couch. Gonna nap. Don't burn the place down, Einstein. I love Margot. Callum retreated to his room, which was barely big enough for both his bed and the mountain of textbooks Margot called Paper Everest. Wow. He collapsed onto the mattress, staring at the water stain on the ceiling that looked disturbingly like a face. The threads followed him. His desk lamp buzzed a jaunty rhythm with a pair of earplugs. Margot was a very loud snorer. His half-empty water bottle harmonized with the dust bunnies under the bed. He squeezed his eyes shut, but the connections sharpened, itchier now as if his brain demanded he do something. Fine. He grabbed the lamp, its warmth seeping into his palms. Pams? His pams? The meth kicked in. He grabbed the lamp, its warmth seeping into his palms. The earplugs popped into his peripheral vision, and before he could overthink it, he pushed, not physically, but somewhere deeper. 2 charges snapped loose inside him, sharp as a rubber band. The earplugs disappeared. The lamp flared and then died. Shit. He flicked the switch. Nothing. Not even a flicker. But the room. Christ, was the room quiet. No traffic outside. No Margot snoring. Just the deafening thud of his own heartbeat. Panicking, he yanked the cord from the outlet, and sound crashed back into the room. Margot's snores, the fridge's hum, the distant wail of a police siren. It felt like getting sucker punched by a symphony. Callum spent the next 44 minutes experimenting with his new magical sound-canceling lamp. When it lost all mystical sound-canceling effects, he felt the loss like a phantom limb. 5 charges left. 9 had become 7, then 5. Each vanished with the visceral snap of a wishbone breaking. His ribs ached where the charges had anchored, hollowed out and raw. Okay, so he can connect things and then turn them into a new thing. With his stomach not feeling the best, dinner was saltine crackers, during which Margot scrolled through her phone, cackling while showing him headlines like "Prodigy graduates still powerless," which all had comments roasting him as a late-blooming dud. Joke's on them, he thought, eyeing the saltine. It vibrated in tandem with the fridge. He could fuse them. Knew he could. Make the cracker cold? The fridge crumbly? Sleep came in fits. His dreams a fever dream montage. Flaming textbook mountains. Mr. Optimism tap dancing to Russian hard bass and other such various nonsense that he immediately forgot as he opened his eyes. Sorry, what? Despite his fitful rest, he woke to the pleasant tingling of 9 charges buzzing under his ribs, crisp as new batteries. And while the odd connections still existed, sleep seemed to have somehow normalized it to his subconscious. A childlike smile split his face as he stood, scanning his room for test subjects. His gaze snagged on the water bottle, and remembering the connection from last night, he ducked under his bed. Ignoring the lint's suspicious stickiness, he grabbed both of his subjects. Fusing the 2 items. No screens flashed, no notifications popped, but he felt it. A click in his ribs, like a key turning in a rusted lock. Fuse activated. Water object plus lightness concept. Cost 1 charge. Duration 15 minutes. The liquid sloshed, suddenly buoyant. For 10 minutes, he sat cross-legged in the dark, tossing the bottle, marveling as it drifted downward like dandelion fluff. It wasn't a flaming sword. It wasn't a sheet skill. But it was his. Hey yo! First chapter done. Sleeping coffee. Hello. Oh fuck, this is actually happening. This Kleos. This is hello Kleos. Hello Kleos. Welcome. We have the author here. As he has been so many times. We just finished the first chapter. And we've talked about chimpanzees and meth. And slugs. But there's also a footnote. Golden Finger. I did web novel slang for a protagonist's overpowered cheat ability. Think instant mastery of magic, a godly artifact, or a HUD only they can see. I didn't know this, so that was good. Mandela effect, I know. When a bunch of people misremember the same detail, like the Bernstein Bears being spelled Berenstein, yes, or Darth Vader's iconic line. Coincidence or universe hopping proof? I like Mandela effect, it's fun. It's a fun little concept thingy that happens and it's weird. Just woke up and I thought I was in an acid trip. Hello. You are not. It's the meth. No, stop. There's no meth. I'm intrigued so far. I'm intrigued. I want to see what this powers takes him. If he can connect any two objects. That's kind of crazy. And I do love Margot. She's amazing. Chapter 2. Red Tape. Callum had powers, obviously. Not that he understood their limitations, their rules, or could explain what exactly they did. The real kicker? He'd spent years obsessing over what power he'd get. Not a single brain cell spared for what he would do after. A classic oversight, really. First order of business. Registration. The government demanded it, naturally. Oh, okay. There was a grace period, sure. Forgive a few accidental rogue fusions. But to use his power legally long-term, he'd need paperwork thicker than a tax audit. Oh, fuck no. Paperwork? Ugh. Cultural osmosis made it sound like a DMV sitting with potential execution or forced enlistment on the line. Of course, there were alternatives. He could vanish into the underworld and become some shadowy crime lord. I vote for crime lord. But let's face it, Callum lacked the required ambition, charisma, and tolerance for spandex. Wow. Not to mention that going rogue meant dodging hero squads, and that one Karen neighbor who'd narc on him without a second's hesitation. Oh my god, there's a fucking Karen neighbor. Do we meet the Karen neighbor, please? Kleos says, good, my language is known to be a bit colorful, so there might be a few weird sentences, lol. Yes, I'm doing my best to read. But yes, sometimes I get lost. Karen is canon, holy moly, right? We have a Karen, people. His phone buzzed. Margot's latest text lit up the screen. Margot, saw your face on the news again. Genius minor, possibly a dud. Want me to egg the studio? Callum, no, but thanks. Margot, you sure? I've got a card on expiring Tuesday. He snorted. That Margot's idea of moral support involved vandalism. Margot, by the way, got pizza. Oh my god, dude. Margot. I love her. Quickly trudging to the kitchen like a hungry zombie, he saw the largest pizza box he had ever seen. The pizza box sat like a titan among men. It looked as if the table was struggling to hold it up. Margot smirked, her cigarette bobbing as she spoke. So, registration? He froze. How did you... Kid, you've been acting off since yesterday. She flicked ash into Mr. Optimism's skull bowl. Just do it. Get a fancy license. Maybe they'll give you a badge. Or a tracking chip. You're 14. They'll give you a juice box and a participation sticker. He scowled. She wasn't wrong. The super registry office smelled like stale coffee and shattered dreams. Damn, dude, this smells so far. We have the smell of shattered dreams, the smell of regret. Amazing. Callum slouched in a plastic chair, eyeing the security drones hovering near the ceiling. Oh, damn, they have security drones. Next. A clerk with a name tag reading Janice. Compliance officer waved him over. Oh, Janice, compliance officer. Okay. She had the welcoming countenance of a kindergarten teacher who'd been in the business for decades. The kind of person who'd mastered the art of talking down to children without technically talking down to children. Callum shuffled forward, hands jammed in his hoodie pockets. Janice glanced at her tablet, then up at him, her eyes meeting his. Callum Vey? He nodded. Follow me, hon. Oh my, I can't. Hon? If you think about it, it all circles back to oh my god. Stop with the math. I like to build environment and smell is an important sense. Yes, I love the description words for senses so far, 100%. Yes. She led him to a windowless room, painted the color of expired yogurt. Also amazing. A laminated poster on the wall declared, "Your power, your responsibility." Oh no, oh no. Janice tapped her tablet. Let's begin. You're here to register your ability, correct? Yeah. And what would you classify your ability as? Callum paused. This world categorized powers into a couple of broad groups, the three primary being physique, alteration to the body itself, like superhuman strength, speed, or stone skin. Conjurers, those who generate creatures, items, elements, or energy, from fireballs to lightning. And modifiers, abilities that manipulated or transformed external objects, forces, or even abstract concepts. His power fell squarely into the last, but explaining it without inviting invasive testing was another matter entirely. Modifier, he said finally. I can alter properties of objects temporarily. Janice's stylus hovered over her screen. Any subcategory? Control? Enhancement? He shooed the inside of his cheek. Hybrid. Okay. Hybridization? Hybridization? Hybridization. Combining traits between objects. Her eyebrows twitched. How exactly does this hybridization affect objects? Like making something heavy feel light, or altering how materials interact. He kept his voice flat, avoiding specifics. Duly noted. The interrogation followed with bureaucratic precision. Liability waivers. A pamphlet titled Seer Meta, featuring a cartoon owl in a lab coat. Callum's knee bounced under the table as Janice recited legal restrictions with the cadence of a grocery list. At some point near the end, she asked if he would consent to power testing, and after his firm refusal, she slid over his last document, with its header reading the following. Classification: Object manipulation. Subtype: Temporary hybridization. Risk level: Suspected C, untested. Legal restrictions: See Appendix 12, Restricted Modifications. He skimmed the clauses. No human experimentation, no altering regulated substances, explosives, pharmaceuticals, dairy products, and a strict ban on willful distortion of public infrastructure. After his brief perusal, Callum scribbled his name on the dotted line, the pen squeaking like a disgruntled mouse. Congratulations, she intoned, devoid of enthusiasm. You're now a registered meta. Your ID badge will arrive in 6 to 8 weeks. Until then, keep this provisional certificate on your person at all times during power use. She handed him an unlaminated card adorned with a holographic seal. It felt cheap and flimsy, like a grocery store receipt. Damn, here's your receipt. It will take you 8 weeks. Karen won't be around for long. Damn. We're gonna morph. We're gonna hybridize Karen. The reception area's fluorescent lights buzzed like wasps as Callum stepped outside. Margot leaned against her Corolla, puffing a cigarette. Well? He flashed a certificate. She squinted. Huh. Looks like a library card. Feels like one too. As the Corolla rattled away from the registry office, Margot squinted at the road, one hand tapping ashes into the cup holder. So, what exactly can you do, kid? Callum hesitated. The threads hummed around him as he flexed his fingers, the charges under his ribs buzzing like cicadas. I apply properties of one thing to another? Kinda like alloy, but on objects? Kinda, but it feels more like a bizarre type of modifier with auditory visual hallucinations. He pulled a nickel from his pocket. It vibrated faintly, synced with an old fast food receipt on the floor of the passenger seat. Watch. One charge snapped free, sharp and bright. The coin's edges blurred as it disappeared, while the receipt became hard and metallic. Margot whistled. So you can turn some trash into tin foil. Bravo. For a couple minutes, yeah. That's even more fun that she was like, damn, you can do this. And then he's not like, only for a couple minutes. Like, it isn't even like permanent. You know? Huh. She flicked her cigarette butt out the window. I wonder if Margot has powers. Back in my day, they called people with powers like that transmuters. Had a body who could turn anything into a bird. Drove his wife nuts. Anything into a bird. That's amazing. I guess she doesn't have a power. Callum blinked. You knew other metas? Kid, I am one. Okay, maybe she is then. She grinned, mischief crinkling the corners of her smoke-lined eyes. With the snap of her fingers, a tiny flame sparked above her thumb. No bigger than a birthday candle. Its tip tinged blue. Pyrokinesis. Level... call it a F+. Just enough to light 6 and scare off Jehovah's Witnesses. Amazing power. I love Margot, please. Oh. How long until she asks to be fused with her cigarette? And so she is a meta after all. She's a lighter. You never registered? Nah, they're only after the big fish. The fire winked out and she shrugged. The white noise of the car on the pavement filled the car as Margot stopped in the middle of her sentence, seemingly contemplating something before she spoke up again. Besides, my power is as exciting as a wet match. Yours, though, could be something. She side-eyed him. You're gonna need training. Real training if you want to do anything big with it. Training? The word felt foreign to a kid who disdained any form of physical activity. Metahuman gym. Off 5th and Cypress. Bunch of has-beens and wannabes lifting dumbbells with their minds. You'll fit right in. She chuckled, then grew uncharacteristically quiet. Look, this gym's not perfect. Half the equipment's held together with duct tape and hope. But the guy who runs it, he's legit. Taught me how not to accidentally, she air-quoted, set my bra on fire. The car swerved around a pothole, its suspension groaning Callum gripping the overhead handle in panic. Do I really have to do all this? She jabbed a finger at him. You have a gift, kid. Something potentially special. You should not waste it. Damn, she's like, I know this guy. I know a guy. Damn, Margot. The gym, when they finally went, was exactly as Margot described. A converted auto shop with graffiti tagged walls and a flickering neon sign that read MetaFit, no supersizing. Inside, a muscle-bound woman bench-pressed what looked like at least 6 minivan engine blocks skewered by axle thicker than Callum's thigh. While a teenager in noise-canceling headphones juggled amorphous spheres of glowing green energy like they were hacky sacks. What the fuck? And in the corner, amid a nest of sparkling wires and half-dismantled treadmills, stood the owner, a grizzled man in a grease-stained tank top, his left arm a shimmering prosthetic of liquid metal. "Margot," he nodded, a voice like gravel and WD-40. Here to finally return my extinguisher? Bite me, Rusty. She shoved Callum forward. This my kid. This my kid. Why did I give her? What happened? I'm putting together a team. Oh my god, the team's coming together. This is my kid. Go easy on him. Rusty's prosthetic morphed into a wrench, then a soldering iron, before settling back into a hand. His gaze pinned Callum like a bug to corkboard. Modifier class, huh? Let's see what you've got. He reminds me of this the quote-unquote nice villain in Treasure Planet. He has the metal arm thingy. That's what I'm picturing. Someone like him. We have a footnote of Alloy, once a renowned superhero from about 2 decades before the story takes place, who possessed the extraordinary ability to transmute their body, absorbing the properties of any metal they consumed. By selectively incorporating traits from various metal, Alloy had become nearly impervious to conventional weapons, all while retaining his superhuman strength, speed, and agility. His strength also became proportionally stronger depending on his density. Despite his peerless defense, he met a dramatic end when he was disintegrated on live TV. Wow. Damn, okay. Holy shit. Little footnotes like that mention other heroes is kind of sick. That's a nice way of doing it. And we have a note from Kleos. Yay! Cute. Okay. I will say that the second chapter was way easier to read than the first one. So I always think like it was just right? I'm following more. Nice. Rip Alloy. Yeah, Rip Alloy. Chapter 3. Power Testing. Jackson was the human equivalent of a screensaver. A perpetually glazed-eyed bureaucrat, subsisting on coffee brewed so thick it could have been used to tar roofs. His job, if you could call it that, involved existing in a cubicle that smelled of stale Cheeto dust and pretending to monitor a system that had never once pinged urgent in the 6 years he'd warmed this share. Thank God for Uncle Frank's golf buddy being the deputy director of something. He was mid-YouTube deep dive into 10 pets who saw ghosts when his monitor flared crimson. 10 pets who saw ghosts. That is such a fucking YouTube. That's a YouTube video. That's real. You know it's real. 10 pets who saw ghosts. The alert screeched like a fax machine giving birth. Jackson choked on his 4th cup of sludge, spraying espresso-colored spit across his cubicle. What the actual... The prompt demanded a 12-digit authorization code Jackson hadn't updated since his onboarding. He fumbled through post-its stuck to his keyboard. Password 1234, password 2345, I love lambs, question mark. When he finally found the equally uninspired but correct password, the screen blinked and displayed. Seer alert. Section 3. X-grade anomaly detected. Oh, no. Jackson fumbled for the laminated sheet hiding under his world's okayest employee mug. X grade, impossible to measure. Protocol, contact site supervisor immediately. Casualty estimate, apocalyptic. What the fuck? Okay, shit's going down immediately. X grade was the oh shit classification. The evacuate the continent tier. The why the hell did they let a guy who failed remedial algebra handle this? Jackson's soul briefly vacated his body. He nearly tripped over his ergonomic footrest sprinting to Supervisor Patrick's office. The door to his office was a slab of reinforced steel that screamed, "I audit war crimes for fun." Inside of the lair looked less like an office and more like a dictator's panic room. Walls barren, save for a framed photo of Patrick shaking hands with the senator mid-nervous laugh. The man himself loomed behind his desk, a human cinder block in a tie. He was well over 7 foot with the body of a professional strongman. Rumor was he'd once been a special forces metahuman. Jackson's voice squeaked. "Sir, the seer, Section 3, X grade, it's..." Patrick didn't look up. "Spit it out." "Sir, the seer, Section 3's precog flagged an X grade threat. Some kid, Callum Vay. He's apparently some, child prodigy?" Jackson's voice cracked, sweat pooling under his clip-on tie. "Interviewer classified him as a C-level modifier to, avoid spooking him before we can call a team in." Oh, wow. Patrick's pen stopped mid-scrawl. "What's his power?" Jackson's tablet shows that moment to reboot, its cracked screen flickering through error messages until it finally revealed what he was looking for. "His file says hybridization? Combines object properties. Although the telepath on site couldn't get a read. Kid's head's, He squinted at the report. "Cognitive hurricane. Almost impossible to read, like trying to read a super genius or a high-level sensory superhuman." Patrick leaned back, his chair groaning like a tortured soul. Like mine! He tapped a key card on his desk, and the wall screen lit up with security footage. Callum at the registration office, slouched in his chair, fingers drumming a rhythm only he could hear. The gym reeked of sweat, ozone, and poor life choices. Hey, more smells! Callum stood in the center of MetaFit's experimental zone, a corner cordoned off with the caution tape and a handwriting sign reading "Break it, buy it" in marker, so faded it might have been a relic from the Cold War. Rusty loomed over him. His prosthetic arm morphed into a Roman-style tower shield that gleamed like liquid mercury. "Quit stalling, kid," Rusty barked. Callum eyed the smorgasbord of... Hey, Swedish word! Callum eyed the smorgasbord of junk Rusty had scavenged. A half-used roll of duct tape, a shipped dumbbell, a novelty mug, and a 45-pound plate crusted with the fossilized sweat of 1,000 failed New Year's resolutions. He grabbed the duct tape and plate, their threads humming in his mind. One charge snapped loose, sharp as a rubber band to the spleen. Shit. The plate didn't just become sticky. It ravenously adhered to anything it touched, almost as if it hungered for it. The plate suctioned to his palm with desperation, bonding to it so fiercely Callum felt like his hand was trapped in the steel jaws of 1,000,000,000 tiny ants. Shit, shit, he flailed, the plate swinging wildly as he tried to fling it off. All while Margot and Rusty failed to hold in their laughter. Not helping. Callum dropped to the floor, slapping the plate down. It stuck fast to the textured concrete floor. After catching his breath for a couple seconds, Callum shifted to an amateur deadlifting stance, and after using all of the strength in his tiny body, possessed, he pried his hand free with a sound like moist Velcro. There. Happy? He wiggled his raw, red palm, now missing a layer of skin. Rusty crouched, his prosthetic fingers morphing into a screwdriver to prod the plate. It didn't budge. Huh, gotta need a Teflon crowbar, or maybe a forklift. He straightened, his arm shifting back into a hand with a liquid metal slurp. Slurp? Rusty began pacing around him with a squint as if it would allow him to peer through the secrets of Callum's power. Dude made the opposite of Teflon. Holy shit, I predicted it. Oh my god, Teflon! Was that your cameo? Hell yeah. Can he fuse some atoms and create black hole? Ooh, maybe. Could be. Let's talk about limitations. All power is Gotham. They are what separate the wheat from the chaff. First, how many objects can you fuse at once? 2? More? If it's 2, can you fuse a third to the result? Hell, can you even maintain 2 fused items simultaneously? Rusty's prosthetic arm morphed into a pointed finger aimed at Callum's forehead. Second, living things. What happens if you fuse a cockroach to a toaster? Or worse, people. Third, can you fuse stuff to yourself? Most manipulators can't self-target. Fourth, size limits. Can you fuse a skyscraper with a grain of sand? Or could you even target either in the first place? Fifth, powered objects or meta artifacts. What if you mashed a block of C4 into a laser crystal? Sixth, control. When you fused the tape and plate, did you choose the adhesive property? Or did your power just pick the shittiest possible combo? Callum opened his mouth, then closed it. Exactly, Rusty said. And these are just off the top of my head. Right now you're playing Russian roulette without even knowing the rules. You need to test everything, then test it again. And when you're out of things to test, he leaned in, his breath smelling of peppermint schnapps. You are wrong. Your power is not a toy, it's a tool and a weapon, and using either without proper training is a quick trip to injury or death. I guess Karen won't. Karen is a nice a test subject. Rusty's gaze sharpened, the glint in his eye shifting from lecture mode to something far more dangerous. Enough lecturing. Let's test the real nightmare fuel. Before anyone could protest, his prosthetic arm snapped upward with a hiss. The fingers reconfigured into a telescoping mesh net, snatching a fly mid-air. It buzzed furiously against the silver filaments as Rusty shoved the trapped insect toward Callum. Fuse it. Right now. With what? Callum recoiled. Your pocket lint, a booger, hell, use anything. Callum's hand went into his pocket in slight panic, grabbing the first thing he touched. Gesturing towards the cage, his fist uncurled, revealing the sweat-slick scent. He swallowed, threads humming as the fly's frantic wings brushed against his consciousness. One charge snapped. The fly's exoskeleton rippled, its iridescent green shifting to a coppery patina. It darted faster now, a metallic blur ricocheting inside Rusty's cage arm with a sound like pennies down a gutter. Margot leaned in, fascination overriding caution. Is it okay? Only one way to find out. Rusty pulled a toothpick out of his pocket and jabbed the insect. The sound of the pick snapping echoed throughout the room. Christ, it's not just a kite. Oh my god. Why? This isn't a normal word. Chitin! No! I thought I had escaped forever. Fuck. Oh, it's not just a chitin. The whole thing is solid copper. All with mobility intact. He whistled. Chitin. No. This fast as well. Chapter 2 mentions chitin. What the fuck? A red LED blinked above them. Rusty froze, following the light to the security camera in the gym's far corner. A dented relic he'd bolted up years ago to deter protein powder thieves. You functional? He barked at the device. The lens zoomed audibly. Callum stared at the plate, its edges warped where the concrete had begun cracking around its unnatural grip. So, crowbar? Someone might have added it when you told me you were going to read it. No way, Kleos. Did you? No way. Soon fucking Goliath is gonna appear. No way. Margot tossed him a rusty pry bar from the equipment rack. As Callum weighed the bar under the plate, the gym's overhead lights flickered. A low hum vibrated through the floor. Margot stiffened. You hear that? Rusty's prosthetic arm shifted into a serrated blade. EMP dampener. Someone's locking down the block. The hum crescendoed into a scream. Across the room, the reinforced windows darkened to obsidian as blast shutters slammed into place. A distorted voice booming through the wall. Containment Protocol X-12 initiated. All residents remain in designated safe zones. Margot cursed. Pulling out her cell phone, its surface flickered through various alerts before resolving into a live news feed of the street outside. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. The screen showed 6 armored vans and a helicopter encircling Metafit. Callum froze, the crowbar slipping from his grip. Are those? Meta-SWAT, Rusty growled. They only roll out for real serious shit. Interdimensional incursions, high-level meta-terrorists, and Class X assets. His glare landed on Callum. Kid, when exactly did they do your intake interview? Callum Vey, vacate the facility immediately. The crowbar clattered to the floor. Callum's throat tightened as the voice boomed again, metallic and merciless. Callum Vey, vacate the facility immediately. You have 20 seconds to comply. Callum's stomach dropped. We're already imprisoned. Ah! Callum is in some deep shit. Chapter 4. Pleasant Kidnapping. Oh, Callum is into it. Okay. His stomach dropped. He's like, finally, it's happening. He's been waiting for this moment. The past 30 minutes passed in a blur. Literally. Rusty's gym, a kaleidoscope of shouts, flashing lights, and the distinct sensation of being dragged through a hallway that smelled like burned popcorn. Consciousness flickered in and out like a dying lighter. Then, snap. Reality rebooted. So who's going to be the next main character since this one in prison? Margot? Hello, the true MC. Callum is actually super epic sauce and the big bad government are not chill like that, so they want the superpower monopoly. That's what's happening. Exactly that. He was slumped in a chair that was so aggressively ergonomic that it felt like it was cradling him in an intimate embrace. Across a mahogany desk sat a woman who looked like a suburban book club host. Her bifocals were comically thick, magnifying eyes the color of expired aspirin. Ah, you're back with us. Her voice was warm milk laced with arsenic. How's the head, dear? Callum's tongue felt woolly, his thoughts slogging through molasses. Did you mind rape me? Wait, what? Wait, sorry, hello? Mind rape. We're mind raping people now. What? Okay. She laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a hurricane. Such a vulgar term. Let's say we expedited your commute. Coffee? She slid a porcelain cup toward him. It smelled wrong. He didn't touch it. Where's Margot? Unimportant. She's not unimportant, please. I love Margot. She better be okay. She hasn't done anything, though. She slid a photo across the desk. A security still of him using the duct tape and plate. Your power's volatility is fascinating. How many objects can you fuse before losing coherence? Callum's tongue felt like it had been dry cleaned. Margot? Rolling her eyes at his repeated question, she spoke. Oh, she's fine. A little distracted, perhaps. The woman tapped her tablet, and security footage bloomed on the wall. Margot outside Metafit, arguing with a small army of police officers. Callum's fingers twitched. The threads here were different. Synthetic. Sterile. What do you want? Straight to business. I admire that. She steepled her hands. You can call me Dr. Voss. I'm here to discuss your potential. That little stunt with the fly? Fascinating. We haven't seen a power that could do something similar in decades. Not since... But let's not dwell on the past. Dr. Voss lit a file across the desk. The file cover bore a blood-red X. The X-Files! Dr. Voss's manicured nail tapped the symbol. You've been upgraded, Mr. Vey. X-grade. A designation reserved for powers with existential scalability. Callum snorted. Then why was I registered a C-class? Unnecessary fiction. Dr. Voss's smile tightened. We don't announce X classifications to the recipients. We smile, we stall, we'll let you think you're harmless while the Blackwater Division races to your location. Why can't... The words hit him like a gut punch. Callum's grip widened on the chair. You're saying I could... What, crack the planet open? Precisely. Hence your draft notice. She leaned in. Bifocals reflecting his pale face like funhouse mirrors. Callum's throat constricted. The room's sterile threads hummed louder now. Dr. Voss stood, smoothing her pumpkin spice cardigan. The good news? You're being fast-tracked into Vanguard. Top-tier training, purpose-driven community. Any questions? Callum's voice frayed. What if I refuse? Her grin widened. All teeth and no warmth. That's the fun part. You can't. Okay. Being kidnapped by the government wasn't nearly as bad as Callum had imagined. The facility he now called home was essentially a 5-star hotel, Michelin-level cuisine, impeccable service, and amenities that would make even the most jaded executive blush. Still, the subtle tension in the eyes of the staff made it abundantly clear. To the powers that be, Callum was less a guest and more a walking, ticking arsenal of potential destruction. But now he found himself in a place significantly more familiar. After all, he'd spent over a decade in a similar environment in his previous life. The empty college-style lecture hall was modest, seating at most 100 people. He had been escorted here by a small army of soldiers who offered no instructions or directions, although it was pretty clear this is presumably a part of the so-called top-tier training he was meant to receive. The old wooden double doors behind him creaked open, groaning like a coffin lid being pried open. A figure stepped inside, a tall, dark-haired, college-aged man. Standing there, he looked like someone had fed an Abercrombie catalog into an AI art generator with jawline sharp enough to cut glass. His eyebrows knit into a frown as he scanned the room. When his gaze landed on Callum, a puzzled expression bloomed across the face. He backtracked swiftly, ducking into the hallway to verify the room number. Callum heard a muffled "ha," followed by the sound of his footsteps as he strode back in, raking a hand through artfully tousled hair. The stranger's sneakers squeaked against polished linoleum as he slouched into the seats directly in front of Callum, sprawling across 3 chairs like a sunbathing cat. He threw a casual grin over his shoulder, the kind of smile that belonged on a toothpaste commercial or a cult leader. There's a thin line in between those. I agree. You waiting for orientation too? He asked, his voice all lazy confidence. Callum blinked. Maybe? Ha! Well, that's reassuring. The stranger pivoted, extending a hand that glinted with a silver thumb ring shapen like a serpent. Name's Enoch. Nice to meet you. I'm new here, so, go easy on me. Callum stared at the hand and then shook it. Huh. Join the club. I'm still half convinced this is a fever dream. Enoch plopped backwards into the seat beside him. Right? Place is wild. Got picked up yesterday after I, allegedly did a little domestic terrorism. You? I made a fly copper. Just as Callum opened his mouth to respond, the doors creaked open again. This time, disgorging a small crowd. His eyes flicked over the newcomers. The group split like oil and water. A handful in civilian clothes and a larger contingent of college-age kids clad in light gray and burgundy uniforms that screamed military academy meets Hunger Games cosplay. The uniform pack moved with eerie synchronicity, marching into the first two center rows like they'd rehearsed it in a previous life. Their jackets wore a crest, an eagle clutching a lightning bolt in its talons, and their stares carried the warmth of freshly sharpened scalpels as they glanced at the civilians. One girl with a platinum braid, coiled tighter than a noose, actually tusked when a guy in a Nirvana shirt tripped over his own laces. Enoch leaned over, stage whispering. Bet you $5 the one with the braid has a stick shoved so far up her ass that it shows when she opens her mouth. Enoch. She also apparently has good hearing, Callum muttered as the woman hit Enoch with a glare sharp enough to flay skin. Enoch twisted in his seat, meeting her death ray gaze with a lazy wave. You know what? On second thought, she's kind of cute. Like a haunted porcelain doll. The sound cracked through the room like a gavel. Okay, maybe. Behind the lectern stood a man so aggressively professional, he might as well have been assembled from cliches. Tweed blazer with elbow patches, oh my god. Thin-rimmed circular glasses and a beard trimmed so mathematically precise scruff. The man's fingers drummed a staccato rhythm on the lectern, his gaze sweeping the room with intensity of a hawk eyeing field mice. The uniformed students visibly snapped to attention, spines rigid as steel rods. Then, like a deflated balloon, the man's posture crumpled into something far more casual. He slouched against the lectern, grinning like a kid who just shoplifted a jawbreaker. Ha! Look at all your faces. What is this? After taking a moment to recompose himself, he spoke up again. I'm Provost Kane, head chef of this little experimental dumpster fire. Typically, we babysit X grades one-on-one, but lately, he whistled while mimicking a plane taking off with his hand. Turns out, apocalyptic demigods are trending, so the higher-ups decided dumping you all into the S-grade class might promote camaraderie, or whatever HR bull they're peddling. Well, Kane clapped, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Enough dilly-dallying. Let's make our way to the playground. He strode toward the doors, tweed jacket flapping like a demented cape. Enoch twisted toward Callum, eyebrows raised. Wasn't this supposed to be a lecture course? Callum shrugged. Not a clue, man. That's so real. The S-grades rebooted like glitching androids, their pristine composure briefly short-circuiting at Kane's whiplash tone. They rose in unison, marching after him with the enthusiasm of condemned prisoners. The platinum-braided girl lingered, shooting Enoch a look that could curdle milk. So I love Margot. She's amazing. Enoch is fun. And Voss lady who mind rapes is also nice. The walk to the training hall confirmed one thing. Enoch had never encountered a silence he couldn't smother with chatter. Hell yeah. By the time they arrived, Callum knew about Enoch's obsession with vintage sneakers, his hatred of cilantro, tastes like soap and lies, and his theory that this Vanguard facility was built on an alien burial ground. Explains the Wi-Fi dead zones. What? And that's why I'm banned from PetSmart. Enoch finished. just as Kane shoved open a pair of blast doors with a dramatic flourish. The training hall wasn't a room. It was a landscape. The vaulted ceiling soared high enough to house storm clouds, and the floor stretched into a horizon line of polished black composite? It looked less like a gym and more like an obsidian hellscape, and at the far end, a cluster of combat drones hung dormant in charging cradles. Their faceless heads tilted skyward like worshippers of the dark gods that call this place their home. Callum's eyes snagged on the ceiling, ribbed with glowing conduits that pulsed like veins. The threads here were alive, humming with a predatory static. Enoch whistled. Could fit a Walmart in here. Several, Kane corrected. But let's start small. He snapped his fingers, and panels in the floor disgorged what looked like nightmare playground equipment. Obstacle courses studded with rotating blades, floating drones armed with paintball guns firing neon gel, and a pit filled with... Is that lava? An X-grade girl squeaked. Molten wax, Kane said. Same scream, less cleanup. Wow! Kane hopped onto a floating platform, hands jammed in his pockets. Welcome to the sandbox. Today's agenda? He snapped his fingers. Try and survive. Holograms exploded into being. Limit testing. But holograms exploded into being. Limit testing. The S-grades stiffened, recognition flashing across their faces. The rest of them just looked nauseous. Oh yeah. So yeah, trying to survive. Survive or die. Chapter 5. Watching a show. The training hall had developed into a Michael Bay wet dream. The young superhumans moved like gods, slumming it at a demolition derby. Take the mountain masquerading as a person. A 10-foot-tall meat slab who bulldozed drones like they were cardboard cutouts. His biceps had biceps. When he punted a molten wax cannon into the stratosphere, it left a crater in the ceiling that probably was deeper than Callum was tall. Then there was Katana Kid. Hell yeah, Katana Kid. He was some weeb's fever dream brought to life. His blade sliced through steel like warm butter, leaving a trail of bisected drones that glittered with anime-grade impracticality. Callum half expected a JRPG victory fanfare to blare every time he struck a pose. Oh my god, he was posing. Worse was the girl with the disintegration aura. Things just unexisted near her. Wow. A drone swooped too close? Poof. Now a pile of dust. And then there was her, Platinum Braid, the S-grade's apparent Ice Queen commander. Her power had to do something with controlling movement. In her radius, drones froze mid-air like flies in amber, and pellets suspended themselves in the air as if you were to stop time in a rainstorm. The X-grades, meanwhile, were more avant-garde. Enoch in particular. 1 second, he was dodging lasers with Matrix-level flair. The next, he was dismantling a drone's circuitry with a paperclip and chewing gum. Was it super speed? Precog? Super intelligence? Time manipulation? Callum gave up guessing after Enoch somehow produced a bag of Skittles mid-combat. The S-grades looked equally baffled. Katana Kid actually paused his anime protagonist routine to gawk as Enoch taunted a drone swarm by doing the electric slide. What? Callum had the best view of the entire field, mostly because he was currently dangling 100 meters above them, trapped in a net suspended by a drone that resembled Wally's meth-addicted cousin. Oh my god, meth actually mentioned! It's real! Not only is he based, but he also got swag. Right? Meth mentioned, hell yeah. Crazy. Could he break free? Probably, but why bother? Down there was a no man's land of rogue laser fire, disintegration fields, and a dude who produced supersonic shrapnel by barreling through everything within sight. Up here, quiet. Peaceful. A front row seat to the show below. Hell yeah, I would also be like, I'm staying up here, thank you. A gel pellet whisked past, barely missing his net. Looking down to find its origin, Callum found Enoch waving from atop a collapsing obstacle, grinning like an 8-year-old visiting Disneyland for the first time. Come on, bro! The water's warm! Oh my god. Callum closed his eyes and reclined in his nylon hammock. Hard pass. The chaotic battle blurred into white noise, lulling Callum towards a nap, until the net vanished beneath him. His stomach lodged in his throat as he plummeted, already drafting his obituary. Here lies Callum Vey, who thought napping mid-combat was smart. He hit the ground with a thud softer than a dropped pillow. Looking up, he found the entire class staring. Provost Kane stood over him, holding the shredded net like a disappointed parent with a broken vase. Sleeping on the job, Mr. Vey. How ambitious. Kane tossed the net aside. Now that everyone's here, he smiled at Callum, let's proceed to phase 2, limit testing. Based on your earlier flailings, I've devised educational matchups. Testing weaknesses, finding limitations, that kind of thing. He tapped his tablet and the screens flared. Ivan versus Cassandra. Versus. The mountain, Ivan, lumbered forward. He moved like a glacier with each footsteps cratering the floor as he stepped into a freshly materialized arena. The human-shaped boulder cracked his neck, the sound echoing like a tree trunk snapping. Wow. Kane yawned. Cassandra, sweetheart, usually I'd say hold back to avoid fatalities, but he gestured at Ivan. Try your worst. She quickly took her position, her hands, okay, it was a bit fast here. She quickly took her position. Her hands glowed faintly, the air around them warping as if reality itself were fraying at the edges. Begin, Kane barked. Cassandra struck first, hands sweeping outward in a lethal arc. A cone of distortion rippled forward, turning the floor to sand and the air to acid-tinged mist. A drone caught on the edge crumbled like a sandcastle in a hurricane. But despite the destruction around him, Ivan walked through it seemingly unaffected. His boots disintegrated, his shirt dissolved, his pants became a very unfortunate loincloth, but his skin, unscathed, not even a sunburn. What the? Cassandra's smirk faltered as Ivan kept advancing. Hit him harder, Katana Kid yelled, earning a middle finger from Cassandra. I love that they're also, like, what are they, 14? Meanwhile, Ivan had reached Cassandra. She backpedaled, sweat dripping as her power lashed out wildly. A support beam aged to dust beside them. Ivan's fist swung, slow but inevitable, a continental plate in motion. Cassandra dodged, mostly. The shock wave of the punch's miss sent her skidding, her disintegration field sputtering like a faulty neon sign. Stop fucking moving! She screamed, desperation creeping in. Her next cone attack flickered, weaker now, fraying at the edges. Ivan grabbed a chunk of collapsed pillar, half-disintegrated concrete, and threw it. Cassandra vaporized it mid-air, but the debris became a sandstorm of particles that choked her. He was on her before she recovered. One hand closed around her wrist. Yield, even Ivan rumbled, his first word of the day. Congratulations. Cassandra's free hand flared, disintegration sputtering against Ivan's chest, and fizzling. In desperation, she flailed around like a badger with its hand caught in a bear trap. It was clear to everyone that there was no possible way of escaping his grasp. Yield, Ivan repeated. And after much reluctance, Cassandra spat a frustrated, Fine! The class erupted into murmurs. Enoch whistled. Dude's built like one of those old Nokias. My god. Kane clapped, grinning. Excellent! Any key takeaways? Indestructible assholes ruin everything, Cassandra muttered. nursing her wrist as she slunk back to the S-grade ranks. Ivan shrugged a tectonic shift of muscle that made his braid clink faintly, like a wind chime made of anvils. The katana kid raised his hand like he was in an elementary school. Don't get in a fist fight with the bruiser? Yeah, sure. Kane waved dismissively in this direction. But the real lesson? Ivan's not just a meat castle. He's a clever meat castle. Notice how he herded her into the debris cloud? Remember, nothing is more dangerous than a person using their power with a little bit of forethought. Kane's grin sharpened as the screens flickered again. Enoch versus Lieutenant Finn. Lieutenant. Enoch was in the arena before anyone had even noticed, wearing a pair of red tinted circular sunglasses that seemingly appeared from nowhere. Finally, a worthy opponent. Our battle will be legendary. Enoch is fucking crazy. Enoch's grin didn't falter, even as Lieutenant Finn stepped forward. The S-grade telekinetic moved like a chess piece come to life. All crisp angles and cold calculation. Her platinum braid immaculate. Her uniform starched to knife edge, and her glare promised a very painful death. Oh, hello, Enoch purred, rotating the serpent ring on his thumb. You here to teach me posture? What? Lieutenant Finn didn't dignify that with words. Begin. Enoch moved first to the naked eye. He simply flickered. A hailstorm of projectiles materialized mid-air. Throwing knives, shuriken, darts tipped with neon gel, even a handful of screws stolen from the arena's mangled drones. They hung suspended inches from Finn's face, frozen in her telekinetic grip. The only proof the projectiles were thrown instead of just appearing was Enoch's arm, frozen still, extended in a follow-through, fingers loosely cradling another dagger. Finn didn't flinch. Her polished boots clicked against the floor as she advanced, trailing a finger through the metallic swarm. She plucked the knife from the air, examining its edge with the disdain of a chef inspecting discount cutlery. Her power had Enoch stuck in place, like a statue unable to move even an inch. She closed the distance like an executioner's axe. It was clear to the observers that the fight was already over. She was 5 meters away when his sunglasses ignited. The lenses flared nuclear red. Twin supernovas that punched beams of concentrated light straight through her torso. The smell of burnt hair hung in the air as Finn staggered, clutching the cauterized holes beneath her ribs. For a heartbeat, the arena held its breath. Then the telekinetic crumbled, her rigid posture dissolving into a twitching heap. A note from Kleos. What would you guys think if I added some art at the end of the chapters? It would cause chapters to come out less frequently because it would take me time to actually make but you would have some fun chapter art. Do whatever you want. But yeah, rip. Holy shit, dude. I can't. That was I didn't expect that. We'll see what the consequences. Oh, sorry for the break. It's okay. Did she die? Crazy. Right, he did do the casual terrorism. Right, I forgot he was crazy in that way as well. I mean, because now I was like, damn, someone just fucking died. But then he also entered with, hi, I'm here because I did some casual terrorism. Wow, well, rip Lieutenant Finn, holy shit. Chapter 6. Fight. The moment Lieutenant Finn hit the floor, the room froze. Not the crisp, elegant stasis of her power, but the jagged silence of a group of pedestrians watching a drive-by. Callum's brain short-circuited. Since when did training mean murder? Even in a world where a guy down the street could sneeze mustard gas, this felt excessive. Kane's laughter shattered the stillness, a wet, gurgling chuckle that belonged to a hyena on nitrous oxide. Oh, marvelous! He skipped toward Finn's smoldering body, humming show tunes. Sorry, what? Callum's stomach did a backflip as Kane crouched. The provost's left arm twitched. Then it unfolded. His flesh rippled like a time-lapse of a roadkill decomposing, tendons slithering like eels, bones elongating with the snap-crackle-pop of Rice Krispies. By the time Kane's hand, tendril, probe, plunged into Finn's torso, it resembled something out of H.P. Lovecraft's darkest dreams. The squelch echoed. Ah! Perforated liver! Kane crooned, elbow deep in Finn's abdomen. Callum dry heaved. The healing process was worse. The grind of reforming ribs, the wet snap of skin stitching itself, would haunt his nightmares for weeks to come. Finn's back arched off the floor. A silent scream trapped in her throat as Kane's hand pulls like an artery made of living maggots. Ugh. When he withdrew, Finn's skin sealed together like molten plastic, leaving unblemished porcelain skin that gleamed like melted wax. She bolted upright, gasping, alive, intact, and visibly traumatized. I would assume. Ta-da! Kane wiggled his now human fingers, still glistening with her blood. Now that we're done with our little interlude, his grin widened. Let's continue. Okay. The hologram screen displayed accompanied by confetti and a kazoo rendition of Happy Birthday, Callum versus Felix. Callum's lungs forgot how to breathe as Finn's trauma-vacant eyes and the squelch of Kane's probe tendril looped in his skull on repeat. Distracted by his thoughts, he hadn't realized when his legs had carried him into the arena. Across the arena, Felix spun his katana with the casual flair of a guy who'd mainlined too much Demon Slayer. Okay, so I was like, this has to be Katana Kid. Felix. Okay. The blade caught the light, casting anime-grade sparkles that suddenly felt a little bit too menacing. Katana Kid's eccentricities suddenly weren't so laughable now that Callum could see just how sharp that katana was. I love that even after he knows that the Katana Kid is called Felix, he still calls him Katana Kid. With a fluid motion, Felix sheathed his sword. In the same heartbeat, the blade flashed, shink, like a scene torn from an anime. 3 meters away, a steel training dummy slid apart with a sigh, its severed edge mirror smooth. Callum's bladder threatened mutiny. Mutiny! Kane's voice boomed, warped and distant, as if he heard underwater. And begin! The word detoned in Callum's skull, rebooting panic spiral. His body moved before his brain could think. Fight or flight, jackhammering through his veins like a rabid animal. It was funny how he had never realized how deep powers burrowed into your lizard brain. Just like flinching from a car backfire, the use of powers can happen reflexively. His subconscious mind clawed through options, frantic as a rat in a flood. Concrete floor, too brittle, too weak. Nitrogen in the air, useless. Aluminum gum wrapper, pathetic. His blade cut steel like warm butter. The gum? Not the wrapper. The gum itself. Stale, half melted, wedged in his pocket, forgotten. His subconscious latched onto it and didn't hesitate. Channels tore open inside him. A fire hose blast of power. Charges burned. 2, 3, 4, gone in a heartbeat. Scorching his nerves like vodka poured straight into his veins. The gum jumped into his palm, snaking up his arm in a molten polymer tide. His skin screamed. His cells itched. So he became a gum. So did he cover his body in gum? All of Felix's training had not prepared him for this. X-grades loomed in his mind as forces of nature, tsunamis, and human skin. Calamities that could shred S-grade teams like tissue paper. But the trembling boy across the arena? Pathetic. The X-grade stood frozen, sweat gluing his shirt to to his chest. Felix had done his homework during the warm-up chaos. He'd cataloged every threat. But Callum, the kid had spent half the session napping. The only anomaly was his friendliness with the monster, a fact that coiled in Felix's gut like rancid sushi. Catching Enoch's grin out of the corner of his eye, a suspicion grew that maybe this Callum was more than what meets the eye. Instinct. Standard meta-combat doctrine. Rattle the newbie. Trigger their fight response. His blade had sunk through a dummy's neck, steel parting like hair under a razor. He'd watched for the telltales, ozone crackle, temperate drops, the brut of gathering energy. Instead, Callum just trembled, like a rabbit hearing the shotgun click. No tells, Felix breathed. Either the kid was Oscar-worthy at playing prey, or his power operated without any obvious visual clues. Neither option sat well. As Kane announced the beginning of the bout, Felix's thumb caressed his katana's hilt. No instinctive defense, no aura, just fear. Maybe the X classification was a fluke, a clerical error, or Callum's arm twitched. At first, Felix thought it was a tremor. Then the boy's hand bulged, skin stretching like overfilled latex. What the? Callum's scream was raw, animal. His fingers bloated into sausage links as something swelled beneath his skin, a molten, honey-colored ooze surging up his vein. Felix's katana flashed, reflexively defensive. The blade sliced air as Callum's arm erupted. It wasn't an arm anymore. It was an elastic whip of a semi-liquid polymer, snapping forward with the crack of a bullwhip. Felix twisted, too slow. The gum tendrils grazed his sleeve. Mistake. His jacket hardened mid-swing. Fabric crystallization into a concrete prison. Momentum became an anchor. Felix's ribs slammed arena tiles, breath escaping into a woof. Above him, the tendril recoiled, dripping honeyed sludge that splattered across the arena. Move. His dagger flashed, a hidden shiv biting through petrified cloth. Freed. Felix rolled, imagining the gum whip cratering the space where his skull had just been. Adrenaline sang in his teeth as he vaulted upright, katana raised, and froze. Callum hadn't advanced. The boy stood rooted, staring at his nearly severed tendril only held on by the barest traces of sinew. Felix's blade arm trembled, with relief, triumph, until the X-grade knelt. No. Pressing the tendril to the stump, it reattached like magic, and it was then that Felix knew he was in for the fight of his life. Damn fucking gum arm. Okay. Oh, here's a brief description of the power grades. Holy moly fucking shit. Okay. G grade, average human ability. F grade, peak human ability. D grade, transcendent natural human limits. C grade, surpasses all natural terrestrial organisms. Okay. B grade, exceeds all pre-1940s human engineered creations. A grade, comparable to the destructive forces of a nuclear warhead. S grade, exceeds A grade capacity by a minimum 10-fold multiplier. X grade, beyond measurable quantification. Speed, composite of reaction velocity, sprint capacity, and striking speed. Power, raw force, energy output producible by an individual. Durability, ability to resist harm, alteration to their base condition. Intellect, a composite of the user's general intelligence, fight IQ, information recall, creativity, and computation speed. Potency, the extent to which one's abilities modify reality and supersede opposing powers. Potential, composite of capacity for power escalations and circumstantial transformative impact. Utility, composite of versatile functionality, adaptability across scenarios, and practical values. The following is an estimate of the character's attributes using the previous criteria based on displayed ability in the story so far. Ivan P, his name is P, S grade, power invincibility plus super strength, minor gigantism, 11 feet and 7 inches. Speed D+, power B+, durability X, intellect F+, potency X, potential B, utility A-. Okay. Slow. Shit. Felix B. S grade, power, weapon enchantment, enhancement, sword focus, minor super speed, speed B-, power, estimate to S+++, variable max X, more realistically BA, okay, durability F+, intellect D-, potency A+, potential A+, utility A-. Lieutenant Finn, S grade, power, motion stopping field, doesn't seem to affect lasers, okay. Speed S++, power activation speed is instant, F without accounting for activation speed, power around X, durability, don't know, durability not including power, G+, with power active S++. Intellect D, potency X, potential A+, utility S+. Cassandra C, S grade, power disintegration field, speed B+, power activation attack speed is A+, D- without accounting for that, power S+, durability D-, intellect G+, potency S+++, potential A+, utility S++. Enoch, X grade, power, don't know, minor super speed, wow, speed, minimum B+, power presumably over D, durability unknown, hasn't been hit yet, intellect minimum B+, potency power unknown, potential power unknown, utility power unknown. Callum V, X grade, power fuse, speed G, power variable without power G-, durability G-, intellect C-, potency potential X, utility X. And some character art. Cassandra, age 22, she's 5'7". Ivan, big boy, 18, 11'7". How do you say 11'7"? Finn, 20, 5'5". Felix, 19, 5'11". Amazing art as always. Kleos, peak. And that's all we have, because this novel is flagged as it's on hiatus. So it's on a hiatus. So there is no more so far. We need more for real. It was fun. So we will see how this fight turns out another time.